Okay. I'm going to take a call right now because I know he's been waiting a long time. Sam from Massachusetts. Sam.
Sam.
Are you there?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay. Do we have two people on the line?
I have my family here with me and my law student friend.
Okay.
They're not on the line. They're present.
Okay. Well, let me just talk to one person. So what I'm going to do is we're going to start talking to you, and we'll probably run out of time because of commercial, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, Sam?
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Okay, so did you have a story to tell or question to ask?
I have a short story and questions.
Okay, go for it.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Go.
Okay. The babies were taken, and we don't have a lot of time to talk about the merits of the case, but I'd like to ask you advice about structural errors and violations of possible separations of powers, including intentional and egregious misconduct attributed to the government. I was appointed counsel who had previously had...
Hold on a second.
Okay.
You're getting into some real deep, heavy stuff, that usually isn't discussed at in trial courts and CPS cases. The whole separation of powers issue, that's an important constitutional issue. And if you believe that there's an issue in your state or your county, that you should be talking to maybe a civil rights lawyer about that.
Do you think that having a civil rights suit while there's an ongoing care and protection custody is should a mother wait until the trial has ended and a decision rendered, or whilst it's running?
Well, that's a tough question. I talk about that with people all the time. And it's just my general, first of all, I'm telling you from a basis of being a licensed California attorney. I'm not a Massachusetts attorney. But in California, I tell people all the time, I prefer to wait until the case, at least you have the children back in your care and custody. Now, does that mean you can't sue them before that? No. You can sue them right now, anytime, anywhere. But I would suggest that you consult with a civil rights attorney in your area about the pros and cons of trying to bring a lawsuit now versus, the benefits and burdens of waiting till you get the children back in your custody. What was your separation of powers question? Because I don't usually get that.
It was a possible. I have my notes written, and they weren't in consecutive order. So it was about structural errors and intentional egregious misconduct. So I was beginning to tell you that I was appointed counsel who had previously had a sexual and a violent nature relationship with a family member of mine, and there was a civil action. And so I brought it to the attorney's attention for her to bring it to, for her to do her canon of ethics. And with that being said, and I also wanted to say hello to your co-host. I have her name Cynthia Becker.
Yes.
And hi. And also, before we conclude, I wanted you to give me information about, I heard a podcast with Josie, the Real Victims of CPS. I'd like to know where I could find that at the end of the show.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so I was beginning to tell you that, counsel had been appointed, and there was extreme conflict of interest. And so we wrote some motions to have counsel discharged. And the lower court judge erroneously ruled that I couldn't get a new attorney, and I went to trial 2 days after that with no attorney. And the law student that I've been talking to said that's a big error, and it's in conflict with the promises of Halbert versus Michigan, which states when the state chooses to give you an attorney, they must comply with the demands of the Due Process Clause. So I went to the SJC, or the higher courts, for extraordinary relief, and it turned out that the clerks had altered the record, and they stated that I did have an attorney when, in fact, I didn't, which misled the single justice, and they ruled not in my favor. And The issue is that when I talked earlier about separation of powers violation, when the clerk alters the record, it appears as if they're helping the prosecutor. So what do I file?
What do you file? You file a lawsuit.
Yes. File a lawsuit.
Or you can, make a motion to correct the record. I'm telling you as if this case were in California, right? I'm not licensed in Massachusetts, but, you should talk to an attorney in Mass and find out if you can make a motion to correct the record. If you tell me that you didn't have an attorney at the trial, and that's accurate and truthful, if the clerk checked the box or indicated that you were represented, that's obviously, it's a mistake. Mistake at best, or something intentional at worst. I don't know. But if you weren't represented, you weren't represented, period. End of story.
Thank you. My mom, Grandma, has asked a couple of questions. She wants to know, why do they want to traumatize them more? The children have been moved to 4 different houses over the course of the case. And why are the visits reduced?
I can't answer that question because I don't know enough about your case. Remember, we're having a 5-minute phone conversation here. I haven't reviewed your case file, the minute orders. I haven't talked to the other attorneys, and, I'm not up on Massachusetts law, but I can, give you a general opinion based upon California law as if the case were here. But that's a very specific question. Why did they do something? I don't know. They have their own agenda, and sometimes it's something that you would never think about or dream about. Okay? Sometimes in lawsuits, after the case, we sue social workers and, we take their depositions, we find out stuff that we just didn't know at the time of the case. You don't know why a human being does something, and social workers are human beings. Now, you could guess or speculate, but you might not be right.
For example, I could tell you why they did that in my case.
I'd like to hear that.
In my case specifically, the reason that they made my visits shorter, less frequent, and canceled all of my phone conversations, even though the plan was still reunification, was because the foster parent was stating that I was causing severe anxiety in my children, even though that was false. They wanted to break that bond between me and my kids because the foster parent was planning on adopting my children.
Thank you for sharing that. Attorney Davies, the motion to correct the record about the lawsuit, if a lawsuit is filed, what type of relief? Declaratory or injunctive?
Could be both, and it could be damages. But again, you have to talk to an attorney in your state, in Massachusetts, about this to make sure if you're going to do this, that you do it the right way.
Are you familiar with anyone in Massachusetts doing work in alignment with what you're doing in California?
Yes, I am, and he's in. I believe he's in Boston. His first name is Kevin, and I can't think of his last name, but he's on Facebook a lot. He's been on my radio show as a guest before, and I just can't think of his last name. But if you give me a call, and leave a message tomorrow, somebody's on duty tomorrow, Sunday, give me a call, and I'll call you back with his name and number. Oh, no. You know what it is? I just thought of it. His name is not Kevin. It's Patrick Seaver, Attorney Patrick Seaver. I don't know why I said Kevin, but Patrick Seaver. Look him up. He's in Boston. And from talking to him as a guest and on the phone, offline, or off the radio, and watching his postings and stuff, he's a very sharp and knowledgeable dude. He knows what's going on here, and he's been doing it for a while in Boston, in the Massachusetts area.
Did you want to say something? Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I would love to interview you and have you on my show and hear your whole story, especially with the questions that you have. I love to get those questions into my in my show. Even if there isn't an answer, there's other parents that have these questions. So it's nice just for the whole community to, not feel alone. So if you would be interested in that, I would love to do that.
Hey, Sam, did you have one last question? Because I have to move on.
I do have a. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
I do have another question. If the juvenile court judge does rule, do I have any recourse?
What do you mean, rule what?
Well, he's in deliberation right now. The trial has happened, and I didn't have an attorney.
So I assume under Massachusetts law that you can, appeal if you lose, but, you definitely have to talk to a lawyer and talk to one quickly. That guy, the name that I just gave you, I think his name is actually Kevin Patrick Seaver. I was saying Patrick Seaver. I think it's Kevin Patrick Seaver. Call him, find him. He's in the Boston area. He will help you. Okay? Sam?
Yes, I have that. Kevin Patrick Severs. I will tell him you sent me. Thank you.
All right, Sam, thank you for calling. Call us in a couple months. Let us know what happened with your trial. Did you win? Did you appeal? Did you lose? And give us an update. Thank you for calling, and thank you for listening.